and welcome to the news on NTAi International. I am Nolin Ebel Ame and my sign language interpreter is John Bamidele. Let's take the headlines. President Tinubu embarks on a two-day state visit to Katsina State, launches sub-national agricultural mechanization. Chief of Defense Staff to collaborate with Raw Materials Research Development Council to boost food security. ECOWAS Parliament delocalized meeting ends in Banjul, capital of Gambia. And here is the news. President Bola Tinubu has again reaffirmed the determination of his administration to improve the security situation in the country. The president stated this during his two-day official visit to Katsina State. He commended the courage and resilience of members of the Nigerian Armed Forces in protecting the territorial integrity of Nigeria.
Today, not just as your president and commander-in-chief, but as a fellow patriot, deeply humbled by your courage, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to the peace, security, and sovereignty of our great nation. You are the shield of Nigeria, the brave sons and daughters who stand between our people and the forces of terror. Every inch of ground you hold, every terrorist you neutralize, and every community you secure is a victory for justice, freedom, and the future of our children. The fight you are waging here in Katsina and all over the country, it's not just a battle for territory, it is a battle for the soul of Nigeria. Your resilience, your courage in the face of danger inspires the entire nation. Your sacrifices do not go unnoticed. You have left behind your families and the comfort of civilian life to wear the uniform of honor and duty.
President Tinubu also launched the Katsina State Agricultural Mechanization Program. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, says the Nigerian military will take advantage of the numerous potentials abound in the Raw Materials Research Development Council to improve its military operations, especially in the new ventured agricultural research of the Nigerian military to improve food production in Nigeria. The CDS representative stated this at a collaborative meeting with the Research Council at its headquarters in Abuja. Ilyasu Aliyakubu completes the report.
The military all over the world is known for fighting the war in defense of the country's territory and internal insurrection of banditry, insurgency, and other high-profile conflicts. In Nigeria, the Nigerian military has been fully engaged in the fight against insurgency, banditry, and other conflicts. In spite of the security operations of the Nigerian military, the Office of the Chief of Defense Staff saw the need to contribute its quota to food production in the country. To achieve this new ventured operation of the Defense Headquarters, the team engaged the Raw Materials Research Development Council to discuss the headway for a large-scale agricultural production in the country. Brigadier General David Kurumi is optimistic that this agricultural operation of the Nigerian military will go a long way in bridging the gap of food production in Nigeria.
We intend to collaborate with Raw Materials Council to improve the food value chain of the nation. You know, in most part of the world, the military is involved in food production too.
Director General, Raw Materials Research Development Council, Professor Enayalogu Ike Monso described the collaboration as a headway to making Nigeria self-sufficient in food production.
And now this is a big plus to work with the defense order headquarters on their own farms is also a big opportunity for us. But beyond that, we're also going to be supporting the military with a lot of other areas.
Experts believe that with this new ventured agricultural revolution of the Nigerian military, the era of bandits or insurgent cutting food supplies will be over. In Abuja, Ilyasu Aliyakubu, NTAi News.
In the meantime, the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Bala Abubakar, has charged newly graduated pilots of the Nigerian Air Force to view their flying qualifications not merely as personal milestones, but as a solemn national responsibility. A statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commodore Ehimen Ejodame, indicates this at the combined graduation ceremony of Basic Transport Flying Course 5 and Student Pilot Course 49 held at the 401 Flying Training School, Kaduna. The 35 new aviators, comprising 10 basic transport course graduates and 25 student pilots, were reminded by Air Marshal Abubakar of the immense trust placed on their shoulders as they carry not just rank and wings, but the hopes of millions of Nigerians who depend on the Nigerian Air Force for safety and security. Proceeding in the alleged terrorism acts against the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, continues Friday with the cross-examination of the first prosecution witness who gave his evidence in court on Wednesday. Judiciary correspondent Austin Aibe reports that the defendant's counsel, Kanu Agabi, SAN, could not complete the cross-examination.
Upon the commencement of proceedings, counsel to the defendant, Kanu Agabi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, sought to know whether any of the items found with the defendant linked him to the offense of terrorism he was charged for by the Nigerian government. But the witness mentioned the radio equipment he alleged that he was using to send messages of agitation to his followers. He, however, admitted that there was no weapon of violence found on him. The defense counsel drew the attention of the witness to the list of several killings that have taken place across Nigeria and sought to know whether they were linked to agitation by groups wanting to separate from Nigeria. But the witness said he did not know, as questions by the defense counsel should be limited to the role he played in the arrest and investigation of the defendant. On whether the defendant, Nnamdi Kanu, has made any statement that brought Nigeria to disrepute, the witness said he once referred to Nigeria as a zoo country as reported in the social media, and on whether he knows anyone standing trial in Nigeria aside Nnamdi Kanu for the same offense. He said that he is not aware but knows that one Samuel Ekpa shares same separatist view. The cross-examination of the first witness is to continue Tuesday next week as requested by the counsel to the defendant, Kanu Agabi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
We believe, like we said at the last sitting, we are making progress. The trial is going on in a very congenial atmosphere, and we believe that we will get there.
Justice James Omotosho, having granted his request, ordered accelerated hearing of the case on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week. From the Federal High Court, Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NTAi News.
Still on court proceedings, a High Court of Lagos State sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square has sentenced a driver, Andrew Nice Omineni Kuron, to death by hanging. The presiding judge, Justice Sherifat Shonaika, gave the verdict this Friday in Lagos. Omineni Kuron, a driver of the Lagos Bus Rapid Transit (BRT), was sentenced to death for killing Bamishe Oyanwu-Ola, a 22-year-old fashion designer. Omineni Kuron and others now at large were accused of conspiring, raping and killing Bamishe. In February 2022, Bamishe entered a BRT bus but never got to her destination. Security operatives later found her naked body by the roadside. The driver of the BRT she boarded was eventually arrested and charged to court for murder. The driver, Omineni Kuron, pleaded not guilty, but he has now been convicted and sentenced to death. In other news, the ECOWAS Parliament has ended its delocalized session in Banjul, the Gambia, with a renewed vigor in ensuring that the Sahel states rescind their decision to the regional bloc. ECOWAS Parliament correspondent Muhammad Rabiu Ali reports that this was the consensus of the members, with other resolutions not made public.
Days of series of meetings are now over in Banjul on the impact of withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger from the ECOWAS bloc. Deliberations focus on the daunting challenges confronting the West Africa sub-region, especially with the withdrawal of 3 member states. The free trade movement, custom, political and security impact of the situation.
The last few years, since the impasse in our region with the 3 countries, we've been troubled. And we've promised that we'll leave no stone unturned. Even after all of the paperwork are done, we'll continue to go after our brothers and sisters to come back in the region.
Let us come together as a team. No matter what, we agree to disagree. There are so many things. We are human. We can correct things along the way.
We hold in high regard the invaluable and decisive role that the Republic of the Gambia continues to play in the advances of regional integration and development within ECOWAS institutions.
For now, the number of parliamentarians in the ECOWAS bloc has reduced from 115 members to 97, with the withdrawal of 3 member states. From Banjul, Gambia, Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTAi News.
And elsewhere, Reform UK leader Niger Farage says his Hard Right Party is now the main opposition party after snatching a parliamentary seat from Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour in local elections that dealt a blow to Britain's 2 establishment parties, just as Prince Harry loses security appeal case. Chikunonso Nwabueze reports.
Reform led by anti-immigrant firebrand Nigel Farage won the by-election in Runcorn and Helsby, northwest England, by just 6 votes as it picked up gains in other localities, including 1 mayoralty. The group's strong showing, overturning a huge Labour majority in one of the party's safest parliamentary seats, continues momentum seen at last year's general election and appears to confirm a trend that the UK is entering an era of multi-party politics. Brexit champion Farage said Reform's first ever by-election win and Starmer's first electoral loss since he took office last July showed his party was now the party of opposition in most of the country.
They are toast. You're witnessing the end of a party that's been around since 1832. It's disappearing.
Reform also picked up dozens of council seats from both Labour and the Conservatives as Britain's long-established political landscape showed signs of splitting. Reform's by-election victory takes its number of parliamentary seats to 5, an unprecedented number for a British hard right party in the 650-seat chamber. Just 1,641 seats across 23 local authorities were up for grabs, though only a fraction of England's 17,000 councillors. But early results suggested reform was transferring lists in national polls into tangible results at the ballot box. In other news, Prince Harry Friday lost his bid to restore his UK police protection after the UK government downgraded his security when he stepped back from royal life and moved abroad. Harry was not present for the judgment at London's Court of Appeal, in which Judge Geoffrey Voss dismissed the appeal, saying the Duke's sense of grievance had failed to translate into a legal argument.
His decision to step back from royal duties and spend the majority of his time abroad has been that he's been provided with a more bespoke and generally lesser level of protection than what he was provided with in the UK before. But that did not of itself give rise to a legal complaint.
The government committee, which handles protection for royals and public figures, in 2020 decided Prince Harry would not receive the same degree as before of publicly funded protection when in Britain. After initially losing a case in the High Court challenging the decision last year, he was, however, allowed to launch an appeal against the Interior Ministry. Chukwunonso Nwabueze, NTN News.
This is the news on NTAi International. Let's pause here for a break. The news continues shortly. Thank you for staying with us on the news on NTAi International. Short conclaves wrapped up in a couple of days projects an image of unity, and the last thing the red-robed cardinals will want is to give the impression that they are divided and the church adrift after the death of Pope Francis last month. Maximum 3 days, Salvadoran Cardinal Gregoria Rosa Cheve confidently predicted this week ahead of the secret ballot, which will begin in the Sistine Chapel on May 7. Global collaborations on promoting creativity is the way ahead. While understanding the cross-cultural sensitivities of each other, this was one among the many outcomes of the Global Media Dialogue held in Mumbai, India, during the ongoing World Audio-Visual and Entertainment Summit. The dialogue focused on the role of governments in fostering global peace and harmony amid an increasingly globalized media environment, culminating in the adoption of the WAVE's declaration by the member nations. The Global Media Dialogue echoed the sentiment that films depicting cultures across the world hold an immense potential in bringing people closer, with participating nations appreciating the role of India film in this regard. The federal government has inaugurated the newly appointed governing boards and executive management teams of the 12 river basin development authorities, charging them to champion food security, accountability, and sustainable water resources management across the country. Usman Zubairu reports that the Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Utsev, gave the charge during a 2-day inauguration and retreat ceremony held in Abuja.
River Basin Development Authorities are responsible for managing the water resources within designated basin to promote agricultural development and other socio-economic activities. This strategic retreat for the 12 governing boards and executive management of River Basin is to acquaint the appointees with the responsibility of their new office in alignment with the government's renewed hope agenda. Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation highlighted the critical role of River Basin Development Authority in national development and underscored the need for the appointees to familiarize themselves with the River Basin Act, the Water Resources Master Plan, and relevant policies to chart a transformative path for the sector. Identifying food security as a presidential priority that demands urgent expansion of irrigated farming across the country, producers encourage the authority to stimulate all season agricultural activities within their jurisdictions.
You are all expected to fragmentally uphold the standards and reputation of the water sector to enable you to achieve effective water resources management, sustainable development, and service delivery.
Mainstream, we will also be available to interact and provide all the necessary support and guidance.
We're going to implement all the policies he has on ground holistically.
It is expected that the appointees are all required to understand the River Basin Act to enable them draw the strategic direction and innovative ideas that will revolutionize the sector. Osmosberg, NTAi News.
In other news, Nigeria is working to ensure all citizens gain digital skills by 2030 for communication and innovation. To support this goal, NTAi has held its first digital literacy stakeholders workshop in Abuja. Emphasis are on how to prioritize digital training in rural and underserved areas to fast-track progress. Chidima Ndubisi reports.
The clock ticks. It's a race in time to meet the ambitious target of having 95% of Nigerians digitally literate by 2030. Currently, the nation stands at a 50% digital literacy rate in a world that is rapidly becoming more digital. To bridge the literacy gap, the National Information Technology Development Agency, NTAi, created a national digital literacy framework some time ago, and in a final push towards implementation, key stakeholders have gathered to strategize on how to translate the framework into action that positions Nigeria as a global digital leader.
Our target is by 2027, we should achieve 70%. So we can only be sure if we have data, we have record, and we work together.
We will develop scalable digital literacy programs that reflect Nigeria's diversities and realities.
The Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation has developed the first AI tool in Nigeria called ServiceWise GPT. Integration of digital literacy into our national education curriculum in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Education ensures that our students are prepared for the demands of the digital age.
Inauguration of the Implementation Committee marks a significant step toward fast-tracking the framework's rollout and achieving the 2030 digital literacy goal. In Abuja, Chimdema Ndubisi, NTAi News.
The Nigerian Correctional Service has a new helmsman. Sylvester Nwakuche has been inaugurated as the third substantive Controller General since the enactment of the 2019 Correctional Service Act. The Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Ojo, presided over the ceremony held in Abuja with a clear charge: lead with vision, deliver with impact. Victor Azu reports.
It was a moment of transition and of expectations, as Sylvester Nwakuche formally took the reins as Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service. At the inauguration, the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Ojo, offered more than congratulations. He issued a challenge, urging the new CG to frequently reflect on 4 critical questions.
What is my mandate? What is my target? What are my ambitions? What are the things I want to achieve? A man who can't answer the what question will live a life without focus. This is someone that I can attest to his capacity to deliver. When he came for a senior screening, he came prepared with his 8-point agenda on what he wants to do in the service.
With security breaches, congestion, and inmate welfare still pressing issues, Nwakuche says he is stepping into the role with a 7-point agenda focused on security, infrastructure, strategic collaboration, juvenile justice reform, and improved welfare for staff and inmates.
The success of our rehabilitation efforts depends on how well we care for those in our custody. I've become a father of almost 80,000 inmates. I have adopted them and I have the mandate of my boss to treat them as my own, and that I will do.
The new Controller General becomes the third substantive head of the agency under the current Act, a role that comes with the burden of reform, but also the opportunity to leave a lasting legacy. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTAi News.
President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Pius Olu Akinyelure on his birthday. President Tinubu described Akinyelure as a man who has lived a remarkable and impactful life as a husband, father, and accomplished administrator. And that concludes the news on NTAi International this evening. Thank you so much for watching. I am Nolene Ebel-Ame, and my sign language interpreter has been John Bamidele. Bye-bye.